And welcome everyone. We are live, streaming live from the Asper Jewish Community Center here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And you have this weird reflection coming through the window. So that's why I'm not facing the outside. And
But you can let everybody know that we now have snow again.
well,
Remember last
yeah,
class
we
there was
we
no
do have snow. You can, maybe you can see
The
that,
Texas people were commenting.
and it's cold. But don't worry, tomorrow is going to start going up again.
Yeah.
Weirdest winter
winter.
ever. Weirdest. Although I just came back from the hospital. I went to visit somebody at St. B,
Yes.
and they were telling me that they remember a winter in 1971. That February was very warm. That they were wearing shorts.
I wasn't here then.
I don't know. I was 1 year
No.
old and it was in Argentina, so I wouldn't know.
I had left the province and I was not back until a year or two later. So do I remember that we had an unusual no.
So I have the Brenda and David Grossman here online, but we have more people. I see the numbers here. Please say hello. We want to know who's there. Here in the classroom we have Shelly and two Valeries. Valerie 1, Valerie 2. Yeah, it happens. Sometimes you have people with the same name. That counts. And you will see lots of movement because it's a public place. The Asper campus. It's a beautiful place. Beautiful place. If you ever come to Winnipeg, you should see it. Rocky
Between
Pollack
the
is
restaurant
here.
and the swimming pool.
Rocky said it was still cold. You remember 1971? Holly Mandelkorn is here. And Holly, you sent me an email. I didn't have a chance to read it.
I left in 65 and came back in 73.
Oh, very nice. I just read your poem. Holly, thank you. Okay, so we are going to study about Parsha Teruma, which I will tell you why I like it. To me, it's a 1, 2, 3. What do I mean with the 1, 2, 3? Everything started 2 weeks ago with the revelation of Mount Sinai. Okay, 10 Commandments. The most spiritual event in the history of the Jewish people. Okay? Some people will argue in the history of humanity, because it's something that it was unique.
It was a seminal event, that's for sure.
Yes. We don't know exactly what happened because the language the Torah uses is very confusing. You know, they saw the voices, Ra'u et hakolot, and at one point it will say that it was so intense that people couldn't handle anymore, and then they begged Moses, let God speak to you and then you tell us, because they couldn't handle such a spiritual experience. That was 2 weeks ago. Last week we started Mishpatim, and it was all the opposite. Nothing to do with spirituality, it was all about civil laws, right? But some may argue that in reality what happened is those were the details, right? The details of the covenant with God. And we all know that great ideas go nowhere because we ruin it on the details, right? We ruin it on the details. So it's very important that after the revelation, we get to learn all these details for such revelation to make sense, okay? But what is interesting, this week, Teruma is a test. It's the test. And this is when God says, okay, here's the spiritual experience, here is the law, now send a check. It says, if you want to make it happen, you need to build a sanctuary, right?
So here we come with the Mishkan.
But then
Yeah.
it was the very first capital campaign in Jewish history as well, because in order to preserve all this wonderful idea, the wonderful project that God had for the Jewish people, they needed money. It's a reality, right? And this is interesting because up to this point, everything was kind of provided by God miraculously. And even for the next 40 years, even though they don't know it yet, at this point in the Parsha, God was going to support them with manna in the desert. Miraculous wells of waters were going to show up out of nowhere so they could drink. Okay? They had this cloud that we call it Ananei HaKavod, the cloud of glory, that they are going to protect them from the weather. But then eventually they're going to enter to the land of Israel, and God said, you are kind of on your own. You will have to build your own houses. You will have to build your own schools. You have to build your own houses of worship. You have to build your own courts of justice. And for that, you need money. So this is the first time that we get a capital campaign. But the language that is used is very interesting. It said, whoever wants to give, okay? Whoever wants to give, please, and there is a list of the things that they were needed, please bring it. Now, from there, the rabbis take it.
God was saying, I'm not going to, you're going to have to start to learn to do things for yourself.
Yes, yeah, but then I even read a commentary from a rabbi who was saying that even the request for money should be unnecessary. That people should bring it without being asked. That the fact that they, even though they were very generous, but the fact that they were asked is that they already forgot. That they had short memory. And that's what they have to be reminded. I found it fascinating. But the other thing that we're going to study in this week's Parsha, it's about the Ark of the Covenant. Have you ever seen a picture of the Ark?
The drawings of the Mishkan, yeah.
The Ark, just the Ark. If you wanna, they're, I mean, we don't really know how it looks like.
It looks like Barb.
And we have some bias from Hollywood, I will say. If you saw the movie, the Indiana Jones, right? The Riders of the Lost Ark.
And a lot of that movie was actually filmed in Petra, which is in Jordan.
Yeah, well, but they finally, spoiler alert, they find it, and then remember the Nazis. They open it and they all die. They start melting. Such a fascinating and satisfying part. But there are some drafts, like how it may have looked, thanks to a detailed description in the Torah. Will have to be. The most fascinating part of the art were what in Hebrew we call the cheruvim. We don't know what they were. Again, we're biased by centuries of mostly Catholic description of angelical beings, right? If I say to you, how do you imagine an angel? Right, you will the chubby kid, right, with the wings. Where is that coming from? But where is that coming from? Why do we imagine angels that way? Because that's what, if you go to the Vatican, that's what you see in the paintings, right? And we grew up with that, and that's the way we imagine it. And whenever we have a movie or something, that's the way they do it. But this is the fascinating thing, Torah. Every time there is a malach, an angel, is scary.
Yeah, they are not. They don't appear benevolent at all.
They're usually beings with like a fire, and you have to remember the ones that visited Abraham, that ended up blinding everybody in Sodom, and then destroying the city. It's I don't imagine like a little kid with wings, and then remember the one with what's the name? Bilam. Bilam the wizard that King Balak hire him to curse the Jewish people, and he's coming with his donkey, right? And it says the Torah that the donkey didn't see the angel, and the angel is described by the Torah as a scary being with a sword, and he ended up killing the donkey. So I always wonder how we went from that description of angels to little kids with wings. Okay?
Maybe to make it more palatable so kids can start screaming.
Now, if everyone at home want to answer that question, I'm very curious. How did we go from the description of scary angels in the Torah to the nice kids?
So maybe, if you look at a very old church, medieval church like Notre Dame or Westminster, and the gargoyles on the corners of all those scary looking creatures, maybe that's what they imagined the angels to look like, protecting angels.
Those were more demons, but they have angels. They have angels, and I want to know how they went from one to the other, because that's not what the Torah describes. But now we have a different kind of angel that is described in this week's parsha. It's the cherubim. Okay, and the rabbis talk about the cherubim. If you go to the Talmud, they do imagine the cherubim as kids.
Yes,
And this is important context. The cherubs, that's what it's in English, cherubs. They do talk about that, okay? But it's a totally different kind of angel. It's not an angel that we find interacting with people. But nevertheless, that's what they're supposed to. We're supposed to have two cherubs, two cherubim on top of the ark, okay? So let's start. You need this context to understand what's going on in this parsha. So let me open it here. You're going to see your text soon there. Okay. There are basically two places where we are going to read about the cherubim, and I wanted to start with this because they seem to contradict each other. The description of how the ark was. Okay? This week's parsha, Exodus 25:20. Listen to this. The cherubim shall spread out their wings above, overshadowing the mercy seat with their wings. Their faces one to another. Towards the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubim be. So somehow something like this, with the wings to the front, and the two cherubims will be facing each other towards the inside. But then fast forward to the second book of Chronicles, okay? And it says, the wings of this cherubim extended 20 cubits. The cherubim stood on their feet facing the walls of the room. The opposite.
Are these the same cherubim?
Yes. So I wanted to bring this because I always like to start with this kind of contradictions. And then it's fascinating to see how the rabbis get out of this oops moment. What do I do now, right? It's ouch. So it's, the Torah said that they were facing one another, and the other one said they were facing the wall. It's almost like they were turned around.
Yeah.
So there are different interpretations. Forget about the mystical things here. One interpretation could be that, I don't know, maybe it was repaired. Maybe it's something happened and they have to be rebuilt, and that's the way they did it after. Right? But the rabbis take the mystical way. Okay? You'll see what I'm talking about. Let me go to the next text. And by the way, I put a photo for you there. You should see it in a second. Is it already there? The photo? I will expand it. Hold on.
Yeah. No.
I'm going to go like this. Nope. Not this. I want to go this. Can you see it a little better? Probably not. Anyway. Anyway, so you will see the wings on top. Explanation. The Talmud says, when the people of Israel fulfilled God's will, the cherubim will face each other. And when the people of Israel did not fulfill God's will, the cherubim would face the walls of the room.
When they're good, they're very, very good. And when they're bad, they face the wall.
So, in other words, they say that the interpretation of the rabbis is that these cherubims were magical figures, right? That were a representation of the people of Israel's behavior. So it was a way for the priest to have a quick idea of what was going on, and then based on that they can guess God's reaction, because God was never happy when the people of Israel wouldn't fulfill the law. So if they would go there and they will notice that the cherubim turn around, it's a bad omen. When the cherubim were facing each other, I don't know how they came out with this. There is no logical explanation. Okay?
No, not good enough. Just a good one.
I just wanted to present it to you because I found it kind of interesting that they went the mystical way to try to explain something that is very difficult to explain.
It's like if you're really good, God will shine upon you, and if you're not really good,
Yeah,
God will not shine.
but what they say also, and this is what I found very interesting, is they also take the symbolism of looking at each other or looking at the wall.
Yeah.
What does it mean to look at each other?
Well, to look at each other is to look with favor, to look with community, to look with even affection, and to turn away is to be shunned.
Well, but somebody taught me once, what does it mean? And I know that if, I don't know if there is such an expression in English, but what does it mean when somebody is looking at their own wall? And that's it. It's when you don't care about others. All you care is about your own wall, your own house, your own things, your own life. You don't look at other people, at other people's needs, basically. And what they're trying to say is, at the end of the day, when we are talking about fulfilling God's will, the ultimate goal is to look at each other. Because we have many examples in Jewish history that when the Jewish people did not fulfill the ritual laws, but they were close to each other, it was never punishment. The problem is when they were not looking at each other. The same happened with the destruction of the temple and thing. We always say the temple was destroyed because the idolatry and thing, but at the end of the day, when you read in the Talmud, what is the story they present about the destruction of the temple? The story of Kamsa or Bar Kamsa.
Yeah.
Two people that they ended up fighting each other, and they were jealous of each other, and one wanted to take revenge against the other, and so one went to accuse the other one to the Romans, making up a lie, so they will intervene, and at the end, the temple ended up being destroyed. Nothing to do with not fulfilling the rituals, and all to do with not being able to live together.
Yeah.
And this is the text that we read every year for Tisha B'Av, the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. I believe it's Masechet Makot. I'll be wrong, but I believe it's in the Masechet Makot that is talking about that. And it says, why was the temple destroyed? Because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. It has nothing to do with, they didn't observe Shabbat and they didn't put on tefillin. It has to do.
That's an easy answer.
It has to do with they couldn't live together. Okay, that's very important. So, who's here? Holly Mandelkern said, "Looking at each other, you're listening to each other, of course." And Amparo Oh, and Pot of Gold here, but she's having problem with the internet. Sorry to hear that. Remember, all of you, you can always restream this tonight at 8 p.m. I always rebroadcast the class, so if you miss any part, you can replay tonight. Okay, let's continue with the cherubim. More symbols here, okay? The rabbis noticed that the cherubim were baby-faced, okay? So, the appearance of the cherubim teaches that one should approach the Torah as a baby relates to his father, not with preconceived notions and faith in our own knowledge, but as completely blank slates and with trust in the Torah's wisdom. Because now we have another thing to try to understand. Why the baby face? Remember, everything is a symbol here.
Well, we wear our life on our face quite often in terms of past, generation, age, sorrow, and so forth. As we grow older, babies, life hasn't marked their face yet. But as we get older, life can often mark their face.
Yep. So, it's interesting because remember the two baby faces are protecting the Torah that is inside. What is inside the ark, by the way? Sorry? Inside the ark, the tablets, the two sets, right? The broken and the second one, right? The upgraded tablets, the 2.0. Well, after all, Moses brought two tablets downloaded from the cloud, so there's a connection there. So, but the two tablets, what else was there? The first copy of the Torah written by Moses,
Yes.
right?
The manuscripts, right?
And what else?
The manuscripts, like not on
The manuscript, yeah, the one written by Moses. A sample of manna.
Oh, I forgot that.
They're supposed to keep a sample of manna for future generations to believe. Okay? What else? Was one more thing. Aaron's staff, stick. The one that gave almonds. Remember, was one of the tests that Aaron's stick blossomed and gave almonds. So that was kept in the ark as well. All that eventually covered and protected for generations. Okay, so and that was protected by two baby faces, which you would expect something more, I don't know, scarier to say, don't you dare open it, right? Or if I look at it, I will have the idea right away that there is something protecting it. No, two baby faces with wings. Okay, so the rabbis went right away in the direction.
You can't go with the baby because the mother could be close by and you'll be in serious trouble from the mother.
Okay.
So just,
Okay, Shelley, that's an interesting thing as well. But you can see here what the rabbis are saying is that they are not just protecting but also learning.
yeah.
So the two babies on top of the ark are actually learning from what is inside. So it said when you approach learning of Torah, always do it like a baby, without
Approach it with
preconception.
the innocence of a child or the innocence of a baby. Yeah.
But it has to be without preconception. That's what we do before Shavuot.
Yes, we do.
Shavuot is the anniversary of the revelation of the Torah. But this is something that starts on Pesach. Remember, after Pesach, we start counting the Omer. 50 days we counted. What do we supposed to do during the Omer? We study Pirkei Avot, ethics. Every day a little bit of ethics. And why is that? One explanation is to get rid of preconceptions and to purify our hearts. Because what happens is when you start studying Torah with preconceptions, you're constantly trying to prove yourself right and to justify whatever you're already doing. That's why you will see many people that they approach Torah and they never change their lifestyle. They've been studying Torah for 20 years, but never change anything. They will always find things in the Torah to try to justify what they're already doing. It's probably
They're looking for a particular answer.
yeah, it's probably very satisfying, but here is saying, no, you have to give Torah the chance to prove you wrong sometimes.
You have to be open to learning.
So just do it like a baby, okay? Do it like a baby. So, but this is one comment. This is one comment from one rabbi. Let's read another comment here. This is from the Malbim. It says, the two cherubim were on the cover of the Aaron, of the ark, which held the two luchot, the two tablets of the law. Thus, one of the cherubim covered one of the tablets, and the other covered the second. So basically said, they were positioned that one tablet was to the right and the one to the left. And then you have the two, that's why you need the two cherubims. One to protect one, the other one to protect the other, okay? So, one of the tablets were engraved 5 obligations of man to God, 5 commandments out of the 10 commandments, okay? Now remember if you go to a synagogue, chances are that it will be on top of the ark, and they will say 5 and 5. I loved it. Did you see the movie with, what was it, Mel Brooks?
Oh, yeah.
That comes with the 3 tablets. I said, here are the 3 and one falls and breaks. The 2 But Mel Brooks had him. It was very fun. Very fun. So, okay, so it said, in one of the tablets, we have 5 obligations between us to God. The first 5, which are, I am your God, you should not have other gods, right? So those are obligations between us to God. And it says, on the other tablet were engraved 5 obligations of people to each other. To each other, not necessarily to God, but to each other. There is one, by the way, that is the 5th of the commandments, that is still on the first tablet, that the rabbis see that there is it belongs to both, which is to honor our mother and our father. I said, what is that commandment in the side of the obligation between us and God? Because we should treat our parents like our creators.
Absolutely.
Because they created us, right? So that's why it's a transition between the first 5 to the second 5. That one is connected to both. Okay, let's continue. But we always understand the first tablet, obligation between us to God. Second tablet, obligation among each other. So one of the cherubim represents the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, whose role is to inspire man to perform his obligations towards God. The other cherub, the other angel, represents the king, whose role is to enforce man's obligation to his fellow man, in theory. And this is funny because both is in theory. We know that both fail eventually in history. Priesthood failed to inspire people to be close to God, and the kings failed to inspire people to be nice to each other and to have a functional society. Because that's why eventually both systems ceased to exist and they were replaced. The priesthood was replaced with
Well, civil society.
no,
on the one hand,
that would be
but the rest was-
kingdom, but the priesthood.
That was the Shoftim.
But it's the Shoftim disappeared after the temple was destroyed. What we believe is that priesthood was replaced with rabbis, with synagogues, So what is the place where you get the inspiration to be close to God? Synagogues.
in synagogue.
Who are the people who are supposed to inspire you?
You're
Rabbis.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, 21st century, we also have another crisis. I studied this a few months ago. It was a brilliant, brilliant essay written by one of the rabbinic candidates on JSLI, talking about the new crisis in Judaism and how once in a while, whoever takes the leading role hits a wall. And then you have to analyze how well that model is working.
And where do we go from
Because remember, the model of rabbis as leaders is about 2,000 years old. Okay, and it changed a lot in the last 200 years.
And it's changing again now as we speak.
Because I would say up to 200 years ago, even though we were divided into different communities, there were still certain rabbis that they were unifiers.
Yeah.
Like
Like the Baal Shem and so on and so forth.
whatever,
Yes.
whatever the Baal Shem will say, it was the word of God, and multiple people will follow. We are so divided right now that if one rabbi said something, nobody cares. And it might affect one congregation, but that's it. We don't have unifiers anymore. If you go to Israel, I think you still have the people that they call it Gedolei Hador,
Yeah, we do. We do.
but it's not what it used to be. That it used to be these great people of the generation. So, I think that in North America, the last one was probably Moshe Feinstein and the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Yeah.
Both died, and they were not replaced.
And they weren't replaced. So things are still happening as though they were still alive and
Yeah.
talking from beyond.
In Israel, we used to have who was it? Ovadia Yosef.
Yeah.
But then he died, and was it the brother or the son who took over? Not the same. It's not as well loved and respected, and the other guy was.
And since October 7th, I hate to bring it up, but anyway, but since October 7th, Judaism in all of its shapes and forms has been undergoing another almost schism and re-examination of who
Yeah.
are we and what are we doing and
It
so
happens.
forth.
It happens all the time. But there is a crisis
But
on.
it's made that crisis that existed
Yeah.
before then, it's just brought it under the microscope now,
Yeah.
I think.
So, but at the same time, the kingdom was replaced by prime ministers and presidents.
Yes.
Okay, and I would say that it's also in crisis in these days.
Huge.
The the way countries rule themselves and the role of how much of a role the state should have. Look at the new president in Argentina. He thinks that the state is a bad word. Anyway, so, but you have the two cherubim making it clear that there should be two separate roles and not both combining to the same person. That we don't believe that let's put it, church and state should be one.
That's right.
Should be kept separately.
Yes.
They are both important, but independent. Okay? And you need both to protect the Torah. You need both, and it's separate entities. I like it. Holly Mandelker, do you think Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sachs was held in high esteem? Yeah, but also he died.
Yes. So we
You
don't
see
know.
all those people
We
that
can only go back to his writing.
those are the last ones that represented the last of the unifiers.
Yes.
And
The chief rabbi is trying very hard, but it's not working very well.
and even in times where we can make public opinions and things almost instantly everywhere,
Really.
still we don't have anybody that caliber anymore. Maybe we'll get one, but not right now. So let's finish this text.
Maybe he hasn't been born yet.
The two cherubim face each other to teach that Israel political and religious authorities should work together. That's another thing. It's a nice message for Israel, and
Oh, huge.
and you know it's important to be separate, but at the same time that they have to work together.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sometimes it's not happening. Sometimes it's not happening. Most of the time, I will say. So let's continue. Cherubim. Now, another rabbi will ask. I love this one. This is an Italian rabbi from the 1500s. Okay? Maybe I should read it with an accent. This one. That says, what did the cherubim that were placed on top of the ark represent? Okay? He's also asking, what did they represent? And according to this rabbi, it said, placing the forms of angels above the ark, with their wings spread upwards, but with their feet attached to the ark, shows that angels are tied to and subject to those who study the Torah which lay inside the ark. And this is why the Torah instructs, towards the cover of the ark shall be the faces of the cherubim. So we read similarly in the book of Psalms, He will charge His angel for you to protect you in all your ways. On their palm they will carry you, lest you strike your foot against a stone. The Midrash asked rhetorically, who is greater, the guard or the one is guarded? Who is greater, the guard or the one who is guarded? Let's see what the Midrash answers, right? The one who carries or the one who is carried? Clearly, the righteous and those who study Torah, who are guarded and carried by the angels, are greater than the angels themselves. So the Midrash asks that the one guarded and the one being carried are more important, right? Those are the ones that are being protected and valued. So, in other words, what I say that the ones who study Torah are more important than angels. And the angels are there to serve them.
Serve them or protect them or both?
Sorry?
To serve them or protect them or both?
Both. Both. And I know this is, we always discuss this, and I always wondering if the rabbis truly believe this to be a fact. Because sometimes there is a little bit of what we call magical thinking, right? To take it as a fact that if you study Torah, you are physically protected, right? From danger.
That's the belief of many.
It's difficult because there will be always somebody proving you wrong. Look at this one. Was a famous rabbi studying Torah, and then a missile came through the window and killed him. Where was the angel, right? So that's why sometimes I take it with a pinch of salt, and I believe that there is something that is not necessarily a physical protection,
For the
spiritual and emotional.
Yes.
In these days, because something happened to you, you died, you're gone. But you have to live every day, right? And it could be things that they are more dangerous than rockets and missiles in our lives. Because right now, we live in a generation that, thank God, finally, somebody started talking about mental health and emotional crisis, right? And anxiety and stress. And those are like constant attacks to our lives. And I truly believe,
And they eat away at you.
and I truly believe that when we study Torah to the core, we are really creating angels that they are keeping us, guarding us.
And it helps wash all that other stuff away.
Or at least they give you
For as long as you're studying or reading.
they give you tools to deal with that. Because God forbid, the Torah never says that, for example, there is no such a thing of a commandment that you shall not be stressed or anxious or fearful. The thing is, what the Torah tells you is you should don't settle there. You have to get, the Torah will help you get out of there.
The Torah suggests strategies to live it.
But then there are many things that, you probably remember, Shelley, when we study the Reb Nachman's philosophy, right? How do you get out of anxiety according to Reb Nachman? You talk to God. You talk to God the way you talk to your friend, not in synagogue. Because he will say that coming to synagogue, to services, that is more to fulfill with a community obligation. But most people will tell you when they come to synagogue, they cannot really talk to God. Because either the chazan is too slow and they want to kill the chazan, because they said, come on, move on, and then they cannot have a spiritual experience, or it's too fast, and they couldn't do it, right? Or maybe you are the chazan or the rabbi, and then you have to be, too much concern about the entire congregation, you cannot have your spiritual experience.
Particularly on a Saturday. As opposed
So
to
you go to synagogue to create community.
And that in and of itself is important.
So, but when do you talk to God? When?
Well,
At home?
in your private moment. In your private moment.
Yeah, at home. You go for a walk,
Going for a walk,
driving your car.
Anyway.
By the way, and the rabbis say that every place is proper to talk to God except the bathroom. And I'm not trying to. It's not a joke. It's a fact. That's the only place where we don't pray to God because it's considered dirty, right? That's not that. Other than that, you can pray to God in the kitchen. You can pray to God in the park, even in your car.
Yeah, I do.
But
The bar in the car.
if you go to the synagogue, if you go to the Talmud, you will say that people in the past, Talmudic times, they used to come to the synagogue an hour before services, and they will talk to God there. They were inspired by the synagogue, by the place, but before the service starts. They said they will pray, and then they will stay for an hour after.
Yes.
Because then you come to synagogue, and then you have feelings, and new ideas come, and then you
Makes you think about something.
Yeah,
so you have
and then
to
you
stay
say.
afterwards and process.
And by the way, when the Talmud uses the word hour, it's sha'ah, it's a relative. It doesn't mean 60 minutes, for a while. So they say they will come a little bit before services, they will daven a little with the community, and they will stay a little bit after.
Yes.
And they will say that's 3 sha'ot, 1 sha'ah before, 1 sha'ah to daven, 1 sha'ah after. That's the way it used to be done. And then Reb Nachman will take that and will make it one of the key tools of Hasidism to help cope with anxiety, fears, stress. One of the main tools. Okay?
Very important things for
Together with they were recommended that everybody should have like the scripture. You should have it bookmarked for different situations when you need inspiration. Where do you go when you need inspiration?
I do that all the time.
Well, the more you get familiar with the Torah, with the Tanakh, with the Talmud, if you need inspiration for something, you know what it is. You go, you read it. Don't trust on memory. Go read it.
I used to do that in the chapel. I'd tear out a piece of Kleenex and I'd stick it somewhere, and then they would think, and then I'd go back a little bit. No, I don't need that one anymore. Whatever. People would make fun of me.
And then
All
you
these
get
little pieces that I
you get inspired, right? Okay, let's go to the next text. We have 9 minutes. I want to show you this because number 1, it says Ve'asu Aron atzei shitim. Atzei shitim, the tree of what kind of tree are we talking about here? They said that you have to mark the ark of acacia wood, also called cedar.
Yes.
I don't know why they call it sometimes cedar, sometimes acacia. Is it the same one?
No, they're not the same.
Well, and it's supposed to be, according to the rabbis, a tree that it was created exclusively with the purpose to be used in the ark and then in the temple.
I think with the acacia.
The acacia.
I think it
Yes.
would be the acacia.
And then it's in these days, some people use it for the Tu B'Shvat Seder.
Yeah.
At the end of the Seder, you eat and drink different things, but then as you advance on the spiritual levels, you reach a point when there is no eating or no drinking. It's the most spiritual of all. So what you do, you smell. What do you smell? Acacia. Yeah, it's fascinating. So he said, they shall make an ark of acacia wood. Listen to the dimensions. 2.5 cubits should be its length. A cubit and a half its breadth. A cubit and a half its height. Okay? Now, and the rabbis say, number one, of acacia wood. But from where did they get this in the wilderness? God said, do it with acacia wood in the middle of nowhere.
A lot of it they traded.
Oh, listen to this. This is fascinating. Listen what Rashi says, okay? Rabbi Tanhuma explained it thus. Our father Jacob foresaw by the gift of the Holy Spirit, that means prophecy, that Israel will build a tabernacle in the wilderness. He therefore brought trees to Egypt and planted them there and instructed they be used during the Exodus. So Jacob brought the seeds of the acacia to Egypt. They were planted there, and then eventually when it was passed orally, right? That when they leave, they have to take. What did they have to take with them?
They had to take the Mishkan with
No, number one, the bones of Joseph.
them. Yeah.
Number two, acacia for the tabernacle. Okay?
Yeah.
And that because otherwise it's difficult to explain how they got that in the desert. But they were not in they
Carried it with them. Yeah.
they weren't in contact with anybody in the desert. Every time that they tried to be in contact with somebody, remember there was war. There was war. The only contact that they have was with the Midianites through Yitro. When Yitro came to visit.
Yeah.
So that's one what it says. Now, listen to this. This is also fascinating about the acacia in Egypt. This Rabbi explained it this way. The Torah notes that on his way to Egypt, Jacob stopped in Beersheba to offer sacrifices to God. The Midrash explains that Jacob had another reason to stopping in Beersheba. Why did he stop? Why Beersheba? He said, because previously Abraham had planted an eshel in Beersheba. Okay? What is eshel? Okay, thank you for asking. The meaning of the word eshel is unclear, and the commentators offer many suggestions, including an orchard of fruit trees with which to feed guests. The other explanation, an inn to host travelers, and an orchard of trees where Abraham would pray. Now, the word is an acronym for Ochel, Shti'ah, and Levaya. What is Ochel? Food. Shti'ah, Lishtot. Levaya. When we use it in this day for a funeral, right? But why do we say funeral Levaya? Because you accompany the dead. Because traditionally, if you see a casket walking by, you have to follow it for a few meters. So that's what they call it levaya. You accompany the dead. So eshel it's ochel, shtia, and levaya. Okay? So, Abraham thought that to properly welcome guests require these three things. Whatever. The exact meaning of the word eshel clearly the Midrash wants to connect the trees prepared by Jacob for the construction of the Mishkan with the eshel planted by Abraham. While this creates a powerful historical connection, it also emphasizes that some values stressed by Abraham, Achnasat Orchim, for example, welcoming guests, are integral to the Mishkan as well. I want you to understand this. Abraham already planted acacia there, but for what reason? To protect travelers, to welcome guests,
For
to
the
feed
trade,
them.
to protect travelers.
So while Jacob could have got acacia from many places, he purposely decided to go there because that was the acacia trees that Abraham planted to welcome others. And he wanted to take that value into the wood that is going to be used for the construction of the Mishkan, the tabernacle.
It's another reason.
I think well, Rocky Pollack said, it has to be lightweight wood because it has to be carried. My understanding is not light at all. It's not light at all. Okay, so but it's a beautiful midrash to say that Jacob stopped at Beersheba because there was a special kind of acacia that will be a nice connection to the values of Abraham.
There's
Okay.
another reason why Abraham planted trees. And we talk about a desert environment where there isn't a lot of growth and there isn't a lot of water. So he wanted to welcome people. He wanted people to come to his tent. So they would see these trees from a distance and realize as they were on their journey that this would be a good place to stop.
Yep.
and rest and comfort.
Absolutely, but that was one of the values that he favored.
Yes.
Abraham. So let me close with this text. And it says, in the eyes of our sages, a Mishkan, a tabernacle, a sanctuary, in which Hashem dwells among the Jewish people is possible only if it is built with a commitment to the values and lessons instilled by Abraham. So basically, if a synagogue is not welcoming, God is not present. There is a story that I heard once, I love this one, that it was this fancy shul in New York, okay? Fancy shul, they have a very strict dress code. And it was this young fellow who entered there with blue jeans, a t-shirt, and a cowboy hat. As soon as he entered to the synagogue, everybody like this, right, make him feel really uncomfortable. And then at the end of the service, people went to complain to the rabbi. So the rabbi comes to talk to this young guy. I said, well, welcome to the synagogue, but I said, do you think you're dressed properly to come to shul? Come to shul. So the rabbi said, look, if you ever wants to come back here, what I would suggest is first you ask God what's the proper way to observe Shabbat and what is the proper clothing you should wear on Shabbat. You should ask God that. Okay? So then ask God what is the proper way to come to this shul. Okay. He comes the next Shabbat dressed exactly the same way. And then after the service, the rabbi runs at this guy. I said, did you ask God what is the proper way to dress in this shul? And then the kid said, yes, I did. So what did God say? He said, he's never been at this shul before. Anyway. So, yeah. So thank you, everyone. I think we are running. We're out of time. Thank you, everyone, for studying a little bit of this week's Parsha. Loki the cat. Who's Loki the cat? Love the name. That's one of the things when people make comment, said that it's him. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Remember, if you missed any part of the class, don't worry. 8 p.m. Central Time, the class will going to be rebroadcasted. So all these comments you can replay
You
it.
can read it again next week and next month.
Yeah.
And even next
It stays there forever. Stays there forever. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and hope to see you soon.